It's a horrifying day for the United States of America. I want your thoughts. When you first heard about this, what went through your mind? What's going through your mind now?
What's going through my mind now, first of all, is we heard the story of that person, an innocent, enthusiastic rally goer who was shot and killed. First, our heart goes out to them and our condolences goes out to that family. But I should say this, Trace, is that I personally believe that God intervened today, not just on behalf of President Trump, but on behalf of our country. If you think about this, 1 centimeter's distance in the path of a bullet was the future of not only Donald Trump's life, but I think the life of the United States of America. Imagine what we would be talking about today were it not for a hair's length difference in the path of a bullet. And I think that that's frightening. And I think that this is a moment for us all to step back. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, voting for Biden, voting for Trump, it doesn't matter. This is a moment where if one positive thing comes out of this otherwise near tragedy, let it be this, that first of all, we saw a president, a commander-in-chief, who in his most vulnerable moment, you saw it unvarnished. He stood up, he took the fire, he took the hit, and still stood up for the people who he stepped up to represent. And I think the other thing we have to take away is that this is unacceptable in the United States of America. This is not who we are. Disagree or not, we settle our differences peacefully through free speech and open debate, not this way. And so if one silver lining comes out of tonight, let it be that. And I hope that we begin the process of healing as a country while avoiding what could have been a national disaster that really, without exaggeration, could spell the end of the United States as we know it had this gone a different direction.
Absolutely. Vivek, it's Martha McCallum here. I'm thinking about President Biden came out and made some comments. He may make more comments. We know they had a phone conversation earlier. He called what happened sick, and he said it's one of the reasons I want to unite this country. We've had a lot of vitriol, and I don't think it's, the politics, there's going to be a lot of politics starting this week, but what do you think the impact is as you look at where the country is right now? And given the fact that the last couple of weeks have been all about concerns that we see in polling over President Biden's ability to serve and his fitness.
Yeah. Well, look, I'll give you a couple of tidbits that I've experienced even in the last few hours. I've had CEOs across the country from different corridors that would have been previously afraid to state their support for Donald Trump, or maybe even personally tepid about it, now coming in and asking, how can I help? I'm all in. These are exactly words of people who have contacted me alone in the last several hours, and I'm sure that's true of people across the country. The reality is I don't want to make this political tonight. This is not the moment for that. I will say that President Biden, who ran on the platform of uniting the country, had an opportunity even tonight to really rise to the occasion in a way that he fell short. I don't say this is criticizing him as a Democrat, but somebody who was rooting for a president to rise to the occasion immediately and not only offer the usual ritual incantation, the ritual condemnation of political violence. Yeah, we got that. But a deeper, heartfelt sense to say that, you know what, this is a man who I'm running against, but it is wrong that this should happen to anybody, and this is not who we are as Americans. And if I, as a U.S. president, have failed to create this environment in this country, then I will own that because the buck stops with me as the commander-in-chief. I don't think we saw that kind of message come from President Biden tonight. And for all of the discussions about how he came short up after the debate, I do think that even tonight was a moment for a man who ran on the platform of uniting the country to have fallen short in the way that he did. But this is less about criticizing President Biden and more asking the question of how we as Americans are able to say we're moving on. We're turning a page on a chapter of our history where we see our political opponents as our enemies. Let tonight mark the end of that, and if so, something positive, as you could imagine, at least something small positive that came out of this tonight, let it be that.
Vivek, you talk about rising to the occasion. I want to go back to what you were saying earlier there, which was the response of the former president after moments after he had been shot. And he got up and he said, I need my shoes. And then he stopped and he fist pumped a couple of times and he said, fight, fight. And the response was USA, USA, because that's the natural response. At all of his rallies, he talks about fighting. It's been a theme. And the theme is they're coming for you, but I'm in the way. So you got to keep fighting. What do you think about that response and that having the wherewithal to do that?
Well, look, I think those images we saw, our kids and our grandkids are going to be viewing that image in their history books. That was American history tonight, and for the better. It was like the images of George Washington crossing the Delaware with the flag in the background. That's what we saw tonight. And it was one of those moments. Our founding fathers, they risked not only their fortunes, but their lives for this country. And I think this is one of those moments where we have a leader who has made a sacrifice. I'm personally grateful now more than ever for the sacrifices that President Trump has made. I'm grateful that God stepped in tonight to save him for this country.